this is great. I love it. Shh. Quiet, please. Thank you for staying quiet, class. Hello, class. Welcome to this week's filmmaking lesson, part 2. I might not be here at Lotus College. I will be at Walt Disney World to go to Magic Kingdom to go to Main Street, USA. Alright, so first, we will be doing 2022 and we will be doing home re-releases. If you go to 2022 in home video, you might show this one. Alright. On today, we will be doing the Celebration 1998 film, the Super Deep 2020 film. Here's a plot to this film. Set in 1984, Anna Fodorova, a Russian epidemiologist, tries to resign after her research associate, Dr. Zotov, volunteered to test a vaccine on himself without preliminary animal testing, which resulted in his death. Colonel Morozov, a military intelligence who is overseeing the project, persuades her to continue human trials without preliminary or animal testing in an effort to quickly provide the vaccine for Russian forces in Africa. Later, Anna is celebrating New Year's Eve with family and friends and is congratulated on her being able to quickly develop a vaccine. She receives a call from the colonel telling her that they will leave shortly for the Koala War Hole. Sons of an Unknown Oregon were recorded deep beneath the surface, and shortly after 20 people went missing. The borehole is not only at the public believes it, but also a deep underground research lab. The head of research of the facility, Dr. Grigoriev, has been denounced after reports of his hiding an unknown disease within the facility. Anna is tasked with retrieving samples and is promised to be the head of the Military Biological Defense Institute if she succeeds. Anna, the colonel, and a squad of soldiers led by Major Sergei Makiv are flown by helicopter to the ice-covered facility in Murmansk. Upon landing, the helicopter is approached by a man in a lab coat who refuses to obey instructions. He is shot several times but continues towards the helicopter. He detonates a hand grenade, killing himself and causing minor damage to the helicopter and its passengers. Anna inspects the body of the man and notices that the tissue has a faint red glow and that the samples she collects from the corpse quickly decay. Anna inspects the other employees of the facility who are being evacuated, and while they show no symptoms, one of the men named Zimin tells Anna that they are being lied to. He states that it isn't a disease and that the lower levels of the facility are hell. Anna, the colonel, and the squad are met by the deputy head of research and of the facility, Peter Kuznetsov, and the men who reported Dr. Grigoriev's secrecy surrounding the disease. Dr. Grigoriev wants guarantees that the remaining employees sealed in the lower levels of the facility during the evacuation be rescued, and then in return he will assist them since he changed all of the security pass codes before the squad's arrival. The group drives by truck on the ground to an elevator into the facility. The former director demonstrates that the passcodes have indeed been changed, and he is the only one that knows them. An elevator key is also needed with the passcodes, and if an incorrect password is entered 3 times, then the elevator will plummet as a security precaution. He types the correct passcode and activates the elevator. The group descends into the facility, which is located roughly 25220 meters down. During the descent of the elevator's brakes don't respond, and Dr. Gregory depressurizes the elevator and puts on an oxygen mask. The group passes out while Dr. Gregory escapes into the facility with the elevator key. The group comes on the Yaita level, which is the living quarters of the facility. A nearby map explains that there is an elevator from the surface to the Yaita and another elevator on the other side of the Yaita down to the research level called Tashkent. There are also switchback pathways in the shift leading from each level up to the surface, but they are sealed and the temperatures within are 200 degrees, facilitating the need for protective suits in order to traverse them. Upon searching the Yaita level, they find an engineer named Nikolay and a doctor named Kira in the cafeteria who were left behind during the initial evacuation. There is still no sign of Dr. Grigoriev. Anna performs tests on Kira and Nikolay in the med lab, and they show no signs of infection. Anna encounters Dr. Grigoriev, who begs her to evacuate the others up the shaft, and that he can't give her the elevator key. Anna yells for the others, and Dr. Grigoriev is wounded, and police are using the elevator down into the Tashkent research level. The major suggests that they use the shaft to descend into Tashkent. In pursuit of Dr. Grigoriev, the group finds the access door to the shaft leading to the research level, but Dr. Grigoriev had ordered it welded shut before the evacuation. The door is covered in scratches, spelling out ominous warnings such as "Help us," "Deliver us from evil," and Latin translating to "insatiable hunger." A group of soldiers, led by Egorov, put on temperature protective suits and are about to descend through the shaft to the Tashkent research level. When the doors are opened from within the shaft, a lone lab assistant named Olga is found without any protective gear and is taken back to the med lab for observation and tests while Igorov and his team descend the shaft. Olga shows signs of fever but declares that she is very cold. Her back is covered with mold-like growths which weren't present 15 minutes prior, which Anna takes a sample of. The sample is shown to grow rapidly and is discovered to be a highly virulent form of mold. Olga and the mold sample show the same faint red glow as the corpse of the man who blew himself up. Igorov radios back periodically, saying that something doesn't seem right during their descent through the shaft. Dr. Grigoriev announces over the intercom that since they didn't evacuate to the surface through the shaft, that he has no choice but to seal them all within the facility, Dr. Gregory causes an explosion that damages the facility pressure pump and will cause the facility to collapse within an hour. Upon returning to the med lab, Anna and the Major find the walls covered with mold or with Olga half melted to the floor but still alive. Olga releases a cloud of spores, and Anna is able to get to the gas mask, but is soon attacked by Kira, having been heavily infected and mutating in the same way as Olga. Anna discovers that the mold dies when exposed to cold and uses a fire extinguisher to leave the med lab and decontaminate herself while the Major is already showing signs of infection. Peter theorizes that the mold might behave similar to cordyceps, a fungus that forces ants to return to their colony, which in turn releases spores and infects the entire colony. Anna discusses the situation with the colonel and explains that the mold can't survive in cold conditions and that the permafrost surrounding the facility is what is keeping it from spreading. The only way the mold can live is within a warm-bodied host, but if the host dies in a cold environment, when the mold dies as well. Anna attempts to urge the colonel not to attempt to bring anyone infected or any samples out of the facility, but he insists that with the waning power of the Soviet Union, a new biological weapon will guarantee their power and global influence is needed. As the group prepares to ascend through the shaft while wearing protective suits with the infected Major, they receive a radio broadcast from Rigoro saying that they are under attack and not to open the door to the lower level shaft. Even if it's them, the Major insists that they go back for Igor and the rest of the squad. 3 soldiers go into the shaft leading to the lower level in search of Igor, and the rest of the squad. Gunfire is heard shortly after, and only 2 of the soldiers return saying that they encountered something big. The weapons had no effect, and it now knows where they are. The soldiers mention that the shaft is also destroyed. The 3rd soldier returns missing an arm and slits down his own throat. Before the door to the shaft closes, something starts pounding on the shaft doors and breaks through. Nikolai suggests that they drop the elevator to the lower level to escape whatever broke from the shaft, which can only be heard as human screams and heavy footsteps. The soldiers, including the Major, stay behind to fight whatever is chasing them while the rest descend in the elevator. Anna, Nikolai, Peter, and the colonel successfully make it to the lower level, which is frozen and seemingly abandoned. They find a tape recorder that plays Dr. Gregory's last words. He theorizes that the mold was stopped by the Ice Age millions of years ago, and that it has the ability to not only control the muscular and nervous systems of the infected, but to also meld the infected together. The group finds a wall of infected melted together. Killed by the cold, Dr. Gregory states that before he dies, he will leave the research level and see the organism one last time. The colonel decides to go into the 200-degree environment and to try and retrieve the elevator key that Dr. Gregory took with him. The protective suits have all been sabotaged by Dr. Gregory, so the colonel must go without protection before he leaves. He says that Anna was right in that Maud must not be allowed to leave the facility and that she can do more good than he can. Since he is an officer, he is duty bound to report that what took place in the vicinity. Anna, Peter, and Nikolai agree that even if they make it back, they must not tell anyone about the mold since someone will eventually try to research it and could endanger all life on Earth. Dr. Gregory and the rest of the researchers on the lower level had tried to keep the mold a secret, and when it was discovered, Dr. Gregory tried to seal the facility to keep the mold and any knowledge of it from escaping. The colonel does not return within the reasonable amount of time, so Anna goes out into the 200-degree environment where the organism lives in order to retrieve the elevator key. She finds the colonel dead, and the key and the entire environment is a giant cave with the glowing mold covering the walls. Upon returning with the key, Peter forces the other two by gunpoint to give him the key so he can return to the surface and become famous for discovering the mold. The three of them return to the Yaita level and can hear periodic screams and moans. Peter is attacked by a large creature made up of screaming infected hosts. They have all been melted into one organism. Anna hides in the cafeteria's freezer, takes off her sweater and pants, and dumps ice water all over herself to get past the creature, as well as take the elevator key from Peter, who has been absorbed. Now only in her tank top and underwear, Anna finds Nikolai, and together they barely escape the creature by getting on the elevator to the surface. They use the elevator key to begin their ascent, but discover the Major melted into the floor just out of sight. The Major begs that he not be allowed to the surface since it would cause the death of all life on the planet. Nikolai insists on escaping the facility no matter the cost and violently bites Anna over the elevator's controls. The Major saves Anna by stabbing Nikolai through the neck, killing him. The Major states that he can feel Anna and to crush the elevator. Anna, clearly infected and now showing the red glow of the mold, attempts to enter the elevator's code incorrectly 3 times to cause the elevator to plummet, but the mold will not let her as attempts to control her. Anna is able to enter two incorrect sequences before the elevator stops, and she is dragged off by a hazmat team, but not before being able to enter the third incorrect sequence. Anna is rescued while the elevator plummets. While being taken to the surface, Anna steals a grenade from one of the hazmat soldiers and forces them to let her go. Now outside in the cold and surrounded by soldiers, Anna pulls the pin on the grenade in order to kill the mold within her and keep its existence a secret. Alright. On tomorrow, we will be doing the Celebration Best in 1998 film. Here's the plot in this film. Helge, Henning Mortensen, a respected businessman and family patriarch, is celebrating his 60th birthday at the family-run hotel. Gathered together amongst the large party of family and friends and are his wife Elsie, Bertie Newman, his sullen eldest son, Christian Ulrich Thompson, his boyish younger son, Michael Thomas Bo Larsen, and his well-traveled daughter, Helene Paprika Steen. Another sibling, Linda, has recently taken her life at the hospital. Helena finds Linda's suicide note, but hides it in a medicine bottle after becoming upset by the undisclosed contents. Michael fights with his wife, whom he had earlier abandoned on the roadside with their 3 children, and then has sex with her. He later beats Michelle, a waitress of the hotel, after she pulls him aside to discuss that he has had impregnated her in an affair. At Helgi's birthday dinner, Christian makes a toast to his father. During the toast, he publicly accuses Helge of sexually abusing both him and his twin sister, Linda, as children. After an initial shocked silence, the party goes on as usual as guests decide to move past the moment in denial. Helge pulls Christian aside to engage in a baffled conversation about his accusations. He questions his motivations for slandering him, and Christian appears to rescind his accusation. However, Christian is spurred to further action by hotel chef Kim Bjarne Henriksen. A childhood friend who knows about the abuse. Christian then continues his toast by accusing Helge of causing Linda's death through the trauma caused from the abuse. Helge speaks to Christian alone and makes threatening offers to bring up his troubled personal history, including his importance with women and his perhaps incestuous relationship with Linda, further exacerbating the tensions of the day. Helene's black boyfriend, Gabatokai Dekina, shows up, causing the racist Michael to lead most of the partygoers in singing the racist Danish song Jag har sett en riktig negerman to offend him. Elsie later makes a toast and where she makes insulting comments towards her children and accuses Christian of having an overactive imagination. With this, she asks him to apologize for his earlier statements and accusation. Christian then accuses Elsie of knowing about the abuse yet and not intervening. Michael and the 2 other guests eject Christian from the hotel as guests are still in denial of the indecent incident and are angered by Christian. When Christian walks back in, they beat him and tie him to a tree in the woods outside of the hotel. Christian unites himself and returns Pia, finds Linda's suicide note and gives it to Christian. Christian gives the note to Helene and she reads it aloud in front of the party guests. In the note, Linda states that she is overwhelmed by trauma from Helge's abuse. Helge remits to his misdeeds and leaves the dining room. Christian has an hallucination of Linda, causing him to faint. As he awakes, he learns that Helene and Michael are missing. Michael, also drunk, calls Helge outside and beats him severely the following morning. The family guests eat breakfast when Helge comes in and speaks to the group. He admits to his wrongdoing and declares his love for his children. Michael tells his father and to leave the table. Alright, in this photo it says Skjoldlandesholm Castle was the filming location of Festen. Alright, on Wednesday, we will be doing Dune 2021 film. Here's a plot to this film. In the year 10191, when faster than light travel is possible, and almost all the planets in the known universe are colonized, Duke Leto of House Atreides, ruler of the ocean planet Kaladin, is assigned by the Padishah Emperor Shaddam Corrino IV to replace House Harkonnen as Flith, rulers of Arrakis. Arrakis is a harsh desert planet and the only source of spice, a valuable substance that bestows its users heightened vitality, and expanded consciousness. It is critical for interstellar travel as it allows Spacing Guild and navigators to use a limited form of prescience to safely navigate interstellar space. In reality, Shaddam intends to have House Harkonnen stage a coup to retake the planet with aid of the Emperor's Sardaukar troops, eradicating House Atreides, whose influence threatens Shaddam's control. Leto is apprehensive but sees the political advantages of controlling the spice planet and forming an alliance with its native population, skilled fighters known as the Freemen. Leto's concubine, Lady Jessica, is an acolyte of the Bene Gesserit, an exclusive sisterhood whose members possess advanced physical and mental abilities. As part of their centuries-long breeding program, the Bene Gesserit instructed Jessica to bear a daughter whose son would become a male Bene Gesserit called the Kwisatz Haderach, and a messianic super being with the clairvoyance necessary to guide humanity to a better future. Instead, she bore a son, Paul. Throughout his life, Paul is trained by Leto's aides, Duncan Idaho, Gurney Halleck, Suk Doctor Wellington Yue, and the Mentad Thufir Hilwat. While Jessica trains Paul in being Gesserit disciplines, Paul confides in Jessica and Duncan that he is troubled by visions of the future. Because of these visions, the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Moham visits Kaladin and subjects Paul to a deadly test to assess his impulse control, which he passes. Mohayam instructs House Patriarch Baron Vladimir Harkonnen to spare Paul and Jessica during his coup, to which he duplicitously agrees. House Atreides arrives at Arrakeen The fortress stronghold of Arrakis, where Duncan and an advance party had been learning about the planet of the Freemen. Leto negotiates with the Freemen's chieftain Stilgar and meets planetologist and Imperial Judge Dr. Leah Kynes. Kynes informs Leto, Paul, and Halleck of the dangers of spice harvesting, including giant sandworms, which travel under the desert during a flight. They spot a sandworm approaching an active spice harvester with a stranded crew. Leto and his team rescue the workers moments before the sandworm swallows it. Paul's exposure to spice-laden air triggers intense premonitions. After an attempt on Paul's life by a Harkonnen agent, Leto places the soldiers on high alert. Yue disables Arraki's shields and allows Harkonnen and Doker troops to overwhelm the Atreides forces. Yue incapacitates Leto and tells him that he made a deal to deliver him to the Baron in exchange for freeing his captive wife. Yue replaces one of Leto's teeth with a poison gas capsule and is killed after delivering the Duke. Leto releases the poison gas, killing himself and members of the Baron's court, but the Baron survives. Duncan escapes and steals the ornithopter. Harkonnens capture Paul and Jessica and take them into the desert to die. Paul and Jessica overpower and kill their captors using a Bene Gesserit skill known as the Voice, the means of controlling others verbally. Finding a survival kit left for them by Yue, Paul and Jessica spend the night in a tent. Paul experiences visions of a holy war spreading across the universe and his name. The Baron hands over command of Arrakis to his brutish nephew Rabin and orders him to sell spice reserves and restart production to recover the cost of the coup. Paul and Jessica are found by Duncan and Kynes and head to an old research station, but are quickly tracked by Sardoker. Duncan and various freemen sacrifice themselves to allow Jessica, Paul, and Kynes to escape the facility. Kynes separate the calls and sandworm to ride, but she is ambushed by Sardoker troops and the worm devours them all. Paul and Jessica reach the deep desert and meet the freemen, among them Stilgar and Chani, the girl in Paul's visions. Freeman warrior Jamis protests their admission and is killed by Paul in a ritual duel to the death. Against Jessica's wishes, Paul insists on joining the Freemen to fulfill his father's goal of bringing peace of Arrakis. Alright, on Thursday, we will be doing Halloween Kills, 2021 film. Here's the plot to this film. On October 31st, 1978, Deputy Frank Hawkins accidentally shoots his partner dead while trying to save him from Michael Myers. He also prevents Dr. Samuel Loomis from executing Michael. 20 years later, on October 31st, 2018, after being stabbed and left to die by Dr. Renbar Sartin, Hawkins is found by Cameron Allen, who calls an ambulance. Hawkins regrets not allowing Michael's evacuation and vows to kill him. Meanwhile, Tommy Doyle celebrates the 40th anniversary of Michael's imprisonment, along with fellow survivors Marion Chambers, Lindsay Wallace, and Cameron's father, Loney Allen, having each survived an encounter with Michael in 1978. Firefighters responding to Laurie Strode's burning house unknowingly release Michael, who slaughters them with their own equipment. Laurie, her daughter Karen, and her granddaughter Olsen are taken to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, where Laurie undergoes emergency surgery on Michael as Michael murders Laurie's neighbors before making his way back to Haddonfield. Tommy, Marion, Lindsay, and Loney learn of Michael's killing spree through the wireless emergency alert. Bar patron Vanessa supposedly encounters Michael in her car, but her driver crashes and escapes unnoticed. Tommy forms a mob of vengeful Haddonfield residents to hunt down and kill Michael. Karen is informed that Michael is still alive and withholds that information from Laurie to allow her to recover. Olsen reconciles with Cameron, her ex-boyfriend, and she joins Tommy's mob to avenge her own father's death. Laurie and Hawkins both awaken in the same room and reminisce about their former relationship, while warning the Haddonfield community to stay inside their houses. Marion, Vanessa, and her husband Marcus are killed by Michael. Lindsay escapes and is found alive by Tommy, Loney, Olsen, and Cameron. The group map out Michael's path and his victim's location and deduce that he is heading towards their childhood home. Tommy takes Lindsay to the hospital and reunites with former Haddonfield Sheriff Leigh Brackett, whose daughter Annie was killed in 1978, and informs Laurie about Michael's survival. Across town, Michael murders the current owners of his home as Laurie prepares to leave the hospital. Lance Troboli, a fugitive convict from Smith's Grove Psychiatric Hospital, and Vanessa's car driver, who escaped alongside Michael when their bus crashed, arrives and is mistaken for Michael. Tommy's mob pursue him through the hospital before Karen realizes that he is not Michael. Despite her attempts to calm the mob and help Lance, he jumps out of a window to his death. Laurie urges Karen to work with Tommy and Brackett to hunt Michael down. Elsewhere, Loney heads alone to Michael's home and is killed. Olsen and Cameron rush inside and find his corpse found before being attacked by Michael, who murders Cameron. As Michael prepares to kill Olsen, Karen stabs him in the back with a pitchfork, steals his mask, and taunts him to follow her. She leads Michael into Tommy's mob, who swarm attack and seemingly kill him. When the mob disperses, Michael recovers and massacres the entire mob, including Tommy and Brackett. Back at Michael's home, Karen goes upstairs to investigate while Olsen receives medical attention. Michael appears and stabs Karen to death to Judith Myers' old bedroom as Laurie stares out of her hospital room. Alright. On Friday, we will be doing Heart of Champions 2021 film. Here's the plot to this film. Unfortunately, there is no plot. They didn't add the details to this story of the Heart of Champions. Alright. Also on Friday, We will be doing I'm Your Man 2021 film. Here's the plot in this film. Dr. Alma Filser, an archaeologist, arrives at a dance club where an employee introduces her to Tom. Alma quizzes Tom with a complex math problem and on trivial details about his favorite poem, and he answers readily. Tom then invites Alma to dance, but suddenly begins repeating himself. He is quickly carried away, revealing him to be a robot. The employee apologizes, noting that Alma is one of only 10 experts asked to evaluate the robots, reassuring her that they will fix the glitch and she can proceed with a 3-week project the next day. Alma then visits Roger, her department head of the Pergamon Museum, ridiculing the many tests she went through to be presented. With her ideal man, mocking Tom and saying she's ready to write her evaluation, Roger reminds Alma that she agreed to the 3-week assessment and that he needs her expert input, as he is on an ethics committee that will decide if the robots will be given some human rights. Roger tells Alma that if she goes through with the experiment, he will allocate funds for her and her team to visit Chicago to see certain cuneiform tablets in person. Afterwards, fellow museum worker Jillian invites Alma to an open house to meet with his new girlfriend Steffi. Alma visits her father, an elderly man, shows signs of memory loss. She later takes Tom home and over the next few days visits has romantic gestures. Jillian arrives at the apartment one morning and to collect the picture, indicating that he and Alma were only once in a relationship. Alma then brings Tom with her to the museum. Tom is introduced to her team's work and suddenly alerts Alma of another researcher who has already written a paper about the subject they're researching. Alma reacts angrily and later gets drunk at her appointment. Alma confronts Tom about whether or not he can feel anger and questions how he is programmed to respond sexually rather than getting sexual. Tom puts Alma in her bed and leaves her there, saying she needs sleep. The next day, the employee arrives for an evaluation. Alma says Tom's programming is good, but gets irritated with the employee and challenges her for treating Tom like a machine. Alma then realizes that the employee is also a robot and orders her out of her apartment. She apologizes to Tom for her behavior the night before. Alma takes Tom to visit her father, and she and her sister, Cora, review old photos and remember a childhood friend named Tom, whom they meet in Denmark, and with whom they were both in love. Tom and Alma then go to Jillian's open house, and Alma takes to Jillian privately, asking if Steffi is pregnant, which he confirms. Back at her apartment, it's revealed that Alma had previously suffered a miscarriage. Tom realizes Alma's fears of growing old alone, like her father, and Alma leaves the apartment upset. She spies Tom coming out of the building, calling her name and looking for her. Alma follows him to the museum where they both sneak in and they have sex in the shadows. The next morning, Alma says she cannot continue with the charade of interacting with the machine, and that she is going to stop the experiment early. When Tom repeatedly asks what will become of him, Alma says she cannot send him away and that she needs him to do it for her. Tom then leaves. Alma records her evaluation for Roger, noting that having your every need fulfilled is not healthy for humans. She is then visited by the employee for another evaluation and realizes that Tom did not go back to the factory as she assumed, and he is now missing. Alma and then takes the ferry to Denmark and finds Tom sitting on the spot where she had met her childhood friend. Having waited 3 days for her, Alma tells the story of how she used to sit in that same spot with her eyes closed, imagining the child Tom next to her, but whenever she opened her eyes, he was never there. Alright. Also on Friday, we will be doing the Jews 1992 film. Here's a plot to this film. Roland Bishop, Topak Shakur, Quincy Q. Powell, Omar Epps, Raheem Porter, Khalil Kane, and Eric Steele Thurman, Jermaine Huggy Hopkins, are 4 teenage African American friends growing up together in Harlem. They regularly skip school instead of spending their days hanging out at Steele's apartment, at a neighborhood arcade, and also a record store where they steal LPs for Q's DJ interests. They are also harassed daily by the police and Puerto Rican gang led by Redams, Vincent Leresco. Fed up with the harassment he and his friends have endured, Bishop decides that the group must go on to do bigger things in order to win in respect. However, Q is unsure if he wants to become involved in the life of crime. One night, under Bishop's persistence, the friends decide to rob a local convenience store owned by Fernando Quillis. However, Q is unsure of the plan and also fears that it will affect his chances of participating in a DJ competition, which he has yearned to compete for years. Although he is eventually pressured by his friends during the robbery, Bishop fatally shoots Quillis in the head and the group flees the scene. The 4 then gather in an abandoned building where they argue over the evening's events. Q, Raheem, and Steele are angry at Bishop for killing Quillis, and Raheem demands that Bishop give the gun to him. However, Bishop resists, and a struggle ensues before Bishop shoots Raheem dead. Panicking Bishop, Q and Steele flee to another building where Bishop threatens to kill Q and Steele if they reveal to anybody and that he murdered Raheem. Q and Steele realize that Bishop is beginning to become addicted to the thrill of killing, and they agree to give Bishop as wide a berth as possible. However, while attending Raheem's funeral, they find the Bishop there, who goes as far as to convert Raheem's mother, Lauren Jones, and promise to find his killer. While Q and Steele are mostly able to avoid Bishop, he eventually finds and confronts them, questioning their loyalty. Later, Bishop confronts and kills Redams, then plans to frame Q for his murders in order to cover his tracks. Fearful of Bishop, Q resorts to buying a gun for his own protection. Meanwhile, Bishop confronts Steele in an alley, accusing him of disloyalty, and shoots him. However, Steele survives the attack and is rushed to the hospital, where he informs Hugh's girlfriend, Yolanda, Cindy Heron, about Bishop and his plan to frame Hugh. Frustrated with the troubles brought upon him, Hugh throws his gun into the river and decides to confront a bishop named. Hugh and Bishop meet, where a fight and a chase ensue. Hugh is subsequently chased into a building where a party is being held, where Bishop begins firing into a group of partygoers and attempts to hit Hugh, but Hugh escapes unharmed. Hugh manages to disarm Bishop while he is distracted and he pursues Bishop to a roof of a high-rise building. As the two get into the physical altercation, Bishop eventually falls off to the ledge, but is caught by Q. Bishop begs Q not to let go, but Q eventually loses his grip, causing Bishop to fall to his death. As Q is leaving the rooftop, a crowd from the party gathers to see what happened. One of the people in the crowd turns to Q and says, "Yo, you got the juice right now, man." Q turns to look at him, shakes his head in disgust, and walks away. The film then ends with a flashback of the four friends together in happier times. Alright, also on Friday, we were doing Mass 2021 film. Here's a premise in this film. Jane and Gail Perry are parents grieving the death of their son, a victim of a school shooting. Richard and Linda are the parents of the perpetrator. 6 years after the tragedy, both couples agree to meet and talk. Alright. Also on Friday, we were doing Spencer 2021 film. Here's the plot to this film. In December 1991, the British royal family prepares to spend the Christmas holidays at the Queen's Sandringham estate in Norfolk. Among the attendees is Diana, Prince of Wales, whose marriage to Prince Charles has become strained due to his affair with Camilla Parker Bowles, has a sizable staff of Sandringham estate led by the capable Major Alistair Gregory. Prepare for the royals' arrival. Diana drives around the Norfolk countryside. On the verge of a breakdown, she avoids heading to Sandringham until running into a royal head chef, Darren McGrady. She notes that the long-abandoned medieval estate, Park House, used to be her childhood home. Diana arrives to a pathetic reception on Christmas Eve. Her sons William and Harry are excited to see her, but she does not attempt to socialize with the royal family, who mostly ignore her. Diana's only friend at the estate is royal dresser Maggie, who encourages her to at once combat the royal family and fulfill their obligations expected to her. Diana finds a book of Annie Boleyn in her assigned bedroom. She begins to have dreams about Boleyn, including a hallucination of her at a Christmas Eve dinner, where she imagines herself destroying a pearl necklace given to her by Charles and eating the pearls in soup. Eventually, coming to believe that Boleyn's ghost is haunting her in her capacity as a fellow abandoned royal wife, Diana tries to visit her childhood home, but is stopped by royal guards, who initially mistake her for an intruder. On Christmas Day, Diana attends to service at St. Mary Magdalene Church, Sandringham, where she notices Camilla among the gathered crowd and is photographed by hundreds of intrusive journalists. She holds a difficult conversation with Charles, who rebuffs her concern over William and Harry's participating in a pheasant shoot the next day, and advises her to develop a stronger serious sense of separation between the public and private lives. Charles privately arranges for Maggie to be sent to London and spreads rumors that she had planted the Boleyn book in Diana's room and made critical comments about her mental ill health. McGrady denies that she had done so. When Diana questions him, Major Gregory attempts to encourage Diana to conform to the pressures of royal life by reminding her that the soldiers of the British Army die attempting to protect the interests of the crown. By extension, our interests. Diana responds by stating that she never asked anyone to dye her to fur. After imagining wounding herself with a pair of wire cutters given to her by McGrady, Diana avoids a former Christmas Day dinner, instead running to her childhood home and gaining access it with the wire cutters. Memories of her happier girlhood overtake her, and she dances her from room to room while imagining her younger selves. She considers committing suicide by throwing herself down a flight of stairs, but is hallucinating the of Boleyn stops her. Instead, she rips her apart her pearl necklace. On Boxing Day, Diana awakes her in her room to find that Maggie has been called back from London. The two walk to a nearby beach, where Diana talks about her mental and marital problems. Maggie responds by confessing that she is in love with Diana after leaving the beach. Diana rushes into the pheasant shoot and walks out in front of the crowd of hunters mimicking the movements of the birds. She tells Charles that she is leaving the role in Torridge and taking William and Harry to London, an arrangement to which Charles hesitatingly agrees. Diana bids farewell to Maggie and McGrady. Major Gregory returns to Boleyn, book to the library. As they drive away, Diana and her children sing the song "All I Need Is a Miracle" by Mike and the Mechanics. In the distance, the scarecrow that Diana had created when younger is seen, now adorned with the cool clothes from her early adulthood. Diana drives to London, where she begins the process of raising her children independently. She looks over the River Thames, uncertain of her future but no longer burdened by memory or royal responsibility. Alright, also on Friday, we will be doing The Tempt 1993 film. Here's the plot to this film. Peter Jones is a recently divorced father and executive for a baked goods company in Portland, Oregon, who has just been released from a clinic after being treated for paranoia. On his first day back at work, he is upset to find that his company has been taken over by a major food conglomerate for making cutbacks. Peter's ruthless boss and supervisor, Charlene, demands a complete report by Peter on a new product of the following day. When Peter's personal assistant, Lance, is unavailable, he frets that he will never make the deadline. But to Peter's good fortune, the company assigns him a temp worker in an attractive young Strandford. Strandford graduated his name Chris Bolin. Chris quickly endears herself to Peter by solving product issues by proving herself unflaggingly loyal and quick-witted. Simultaneously, various people around the office meet with unfortunate accidents, beginning when Lance is maimed by paper shredder, forcing him to take an extended leave of absence. Peter's workplace rival, Hartzell, is subsequently found dead in his stalled car from a wasp sting, while Jesser is later found hanging in his office in an apparent suicide. Each of these excessive deaths give Peter unearned promotions in the company. When Peter inquires about why Chris would take such a low-earned position given her educational background, she tells him she prefers to work temp jobs in order to see how she fits within the company, and that she has yet to find the right fit. In conversation, Chris explains that a photo of a man and her child on her desk is her estranged husband, Mark, and the daughter Lizzie. After Peter refuses Chris's advances for a sexual relationship, he finds himself the subject of various professional troubles that threaten his career. Believing he is being sabotaged and gaslit, Peter suspects his old friend from a rival company, Montreux, as well as Charlene. One he theorizes may be trying to save her career by destroying his. He also suspects Chris. Peter begins researching Chris's past with the help of Sarah, another secretary, and discovers that Chris's former boss died mysteriously. He also learns that Chris never intended Stanford. Peter confronts her, but she denies his accusations. The following morning, Peter is shunned in the office after someone frames him for leaking confidential company information. However, Chris comes to his aid by accepting responsibility for the computer error, which earns Peter's promotion to vice president and Chris's promotion to marketing executive. As reward, Charlene sends Peter and Chris to the company's bakery on a weekend retreat. En route, they find that the brakes to Chris's car have been tampered with. After checking into the hotel, Peter gets a message from Charlene about the emergency at the bakery. Upon going there, he finds a dead security guard and Chris, who appears to be suffering from a mild confusion. He is subsequently hit over the head by an unseen assailant. In his disoriented state, Peter wanders out of the office to see Chris struggling with Charlene along a catwalk. Peter intervenes to prevent Charlene from strangling Chris to death. In the melee, Charlene falls from a plank and is left hanging from a railing. He attempts to pull her up and she falls to her death. but not before seeing the picture. Months later, Peter is rebuilding his relationship with his wife, Sharon, and their son. It has been made president of the company. As he settles the Charlene's former office, he discovers several identical framed photos left behind of Chris's husband and daughter. He is shocked when Charlene's secretary, Rosemary, explains that the picture frames were a cheap gift for to Charlene, and that the pictures in them are stock photos. The frames came with recalling Charlene's final words. Peter realizes that she too had detected Chris's duplicity. Peter confronts Chris about the photo and accuses her of orchestrating the bakery incident to kill Charlene and possibly kill himself. Chris again tries to assuage him, explaining that she had presented the photo as her husband and daughter as a means of discouraging male co-workers from hitting on her. Peter finally realizing that Chris is a master manipulator of sociopath, knows he cannot prove her culpability in any of the events to rid himself of Chris once and for all. Peter simply fires her and orders her detained until the police can escort her out. Alright. That's all the home releases we got. So second, we will be doing TV series over home releases. It is about Alone at Sea, episode 2. Monica attempts to instigate another curse when her cursed fish departs to keep Simugu happy. Angry about Monica's acts towards Simugu, Hikari verbally lashes out against her during school while Monica attempts to balance her friendship with Hikari and her relationship with Simugu. Simugu, Monica, Hikari, Chisaki, and Kanami all volunteer to make the offering for the Funiheki Marian. They discuss with Shishio and Simugu as Monica, Hikari, Chisaki, and Kaname leave for the day. They spot Hikari kissing a man, and she is dropped off at the pier with relationships between sea people and land people in their mind. The four contemplate their individual concerns on the matter. The next day, Chisaki discovers Simugu is making a watering hole for wishes. Simugu wasn't so nice. At Uroko's, Manaka begs to be accursed again, being interrupted by an elder man of the village dragged Akari to Uroko's place. Since due to her being involved with someone from the service, Hikari and Manaka can only watch on the Tomori takes Akari to Oroko. Alright. That's all the TV series over home releases we got. So third, we will be doing Monkey Pictures and Roman Cow Productions and Duncan Teeth Company shorts. It is about SpongeBob SquarePants Season 1. Episode 1B. It's a reef blower. Wishing to keep his front yard clean, Squidward finds a small seashell and throws it into SpongeBob's yard. SpongeBob notices the shell and decides to use his high-powered electric reef blower to remove the shell from his yard. Squidward is unaware that what havoc is to ensure because of his small act and how it will ruin his quiet day. Alright, that's all the shorts we got. So forth, we will be doing Samsung Galaxy S21, S22 series. It is about Maymay, who is going on a flight with the chickens, as well as Hawker Alice, Snow White, and Son of Fataba. They arrived at Orlando, Florida, to visit at night, and we go during the day. And the magical girl and her other magical girls and her magical girl are just going to Magic Kingdom for the night, and finds out they had chickens to fly back to Canada, and they wave goodbye to the chickens and live happily ever after. Alright, that's all I got for today. Let's do some work now. Hey, it's 1 hour. It's 1 hour? Yeah, it is 1 hour. Wow, that's taking a long time. Yeah. Want to go to Magic Kingdom with me? Yep. Okay, good. Good.